Now, in the too close to call yet department, but leaning towards Santorum, are Ohio and North Dakota. Wyoming is leaning towards Romney. Now, polls in Idaho and Alaska aren't even reporting yet, so we'll be keeping an eye on all of that. Joining me tonight is Bill Whalen, the research fellow at Stanford's Hoover Institution, and Dr. Melinda Jackson, political science professor from San Jose State, who has joined us many times in the past. Thank you both for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Bill, I'm going to start with you. Is there anything that we can take from what we're seeing in the Super Tuesday primaries, especially in Ohio, where right now it looks like Santorum's ahead, but it's a very slim margin. We can't take anything from that. Right. But just kind of looking at this overall, what does the big picture tell us about where the GOP party is right now?
The big picture is that everybody who came into this race tonight will be able to walk away with what they wanted to get. Gingrich claimed a state, Georgia. Santorum will claim at least 2 states, 3 if he gets Ohio, though I'm guessing Romney will probably end up with that. Romney will get 5 states at a minimum. Ron Paul will get delegates, as he's after, not states, but delegates. So the race really doesn't change that much coming out of it as it did going in, except for one thing. If you look at a delegate graph tomorrow, a bar chart of delegates, Mitt Romney is going to have 450, 500 delegates, right, and the next closest person is going to be in the low 100s, and that's going to be a very sizable difference.
Just kind of looking at how things are going so far, and I'll ask either one of you, is there anything, if you were campaign manager right now and looking at the way things are running and the way they're handling things, and if we're still got a pretty decent race going forward, nothing has been clarified at the end of the night, is there anything that you would tell them to do differently, or anything that you like that anybody jump out at you, anything unusual, different that you would change?
You want to take that first?
Sure, I'll take it first. If I'm Romney, I'm now exerting pressure. I think what you're going to see, if Santorum does not win Ohio, that takes a lot of wind out of the sails of his campaign, because he will have lost Michigan and Ohio, which are 2 Reagan Democrat blue-collar states, which he has said all along as a Western Pennsylvania that he is better suited to than Romney. That didn't work out. So if I'm Romney, I would now push it further. I'd get more big-name Republicans to start endorsing and start the drumbeat of, this thing is really kind of over, let's move on to conclusion. Otherwise, these gentlemen are all following the course they want to. Ron Paul just wants to get to Tampa with delegates. Santorum wants to try to deny Romney a first ballot nomination. Newt Gingrich, well, nobody knows what's in Newt's head, but Newt just keeps soldiering on, and you got a state tonight. So again, I would look for Romney to put the pressure on the race to try to resolve it as fast as he can.
Melinda, I want to turn to you real quick, too, and take a look at something else that happened in politics today. President Obama. Now, he came out, he addressed the media, and I know most of the networks in the Bay Area stopped whatever coverage they were, interrupted everything to cover the president's remarks. He had a press conference today. He talked about mortgage rules. He talked about Iran and various other things. Let's listen to a real quick clip, especially on the mortgage issue, and then we'll talk about that in a minute.
This Congress should pass my proposal to give every responsible homeowner a chance to save an average of $3,000 a year by refinancing their mortgage at historically low rates. No red tape, no runaround from the banks. If you've been on time on your payments, if you've done the right thing, if you've acted responsibly, you should have a chance to save that money on your home.
All right, so talk about the timing and the strategy of addressing the media on Super Tuesday, and specifically talking about something that's going to impact the average person in their wallet, because otherwise all the attention would be on the Republicans and their rhetoric.
Well, that's exactly right. This was smart politics, right? We're in the middle of a Republican primary campaign season, so we've had a lot of attention on the Republicans lately. They've been getting a lot of face time on the media. So this was smart for Obama to come out and talk about some of his policy proposals, some of the same things that he talked about in the State of the Union, remind people that they're going to have a choice in November, and he's going to be the Democratic candidate that they're looking at. The economy is still the #1 issue on people's minds. There's been some positive news on the economy recently, so I think Obama's hoping that if that trend continues, that the economy looks like it's getting better, that may be an issue that can help him rather than hurt him this fall.
And he even talked about, along those lines, gas prices. Everybody's talking about that today, and again, he jumped on that. Just, if nothing else, a chance. He's in the conversation today. He's not somewhere in the background, and he's addressing things that people are concerned about.
Well, that's right, and other polls have shown that another area where Obama really compares favorably to Romney, for example, is that people think he cares about people like them, that he can relate to people like them more so than Mitt Romney. So that's another way of trying to connect with the average middle-class voter.
The things that affect them,
That's
right?
Right. That's right.
You know, Bill, time and time again, we're hearing how voters are tired of the status quo. We see the approval rating numbers, whether it's our local politicians or on the national side, and the approval ratings are in the tank. So that being said, how come we kind of, in a way, are seeing candidates that are pretty much of the same mold. None of the people that I can see, maybe with the exception of Ron Paul, would upset the apple cart. So why are people so interested in kind of staying the course, if you will?
Well, you're talking about Republicans running in Republican primaries and caucuses, and they're appealing to conservative Republicans who tend to think the Republican Party is actually a pretty good operation. In a general election, you'll find more voters, more independent voters who are dissatisfied with both the Republican and the Democratic Party. Witness in California, where the largest rise of voters or so-called DTS has declined to states. But this will be a curious thing to see in the general election, to see if either President Obama or his opponent are willing to sort of break form, if you will, with their party, especially with Romney, who has a real challenge on his hands. It's both getting Republicans excited about his campaign, but also getting independents on board. And you know, as a Republican, it sort of pains me to say, but Barack Obama is running a very smart campaign here. A remarkable coincidence, he holds a press conference 150 days after his last press conference, same day as Super Tuesday. But you notice he's doing two things. Number one, he looks very presidential, standing behind the podium. And secondly, he's looking empathetic. And going back to Bill Clinton, the gentleman in the race who is more empathetic is the one who wins.
Yeah, and you know, something that's interesting that Bill just touched on, talking about the real challenge for Mitt Romney. And earlier he was talking about no matter how this goes, he's going to have a pretty sizable delegate count at the end of the night. That all being said, here's this front runner, and everybody sees him as fragile. Melinda, what do you think that means for the Republican Party? Is it a group that's more fractured, or do they come together? Where do they stand in all of this?
Well, I think they will come together behind whoever the nominee is in the end. But what we're seeing is the different factions within the party. We've got the libertarians who are supporting Ron Paul. We've got the evangelicals, the Christian conservatives who are supporting Santorum. And then we've got kind of the mainstream, you know, business conservatives who are supporting Romney, and the establishment of the party is definitely supporting Romney. But Romney has taken some knocks during this campaign, and assuming that he does pull it out in the end and he comes out as a nominee, he will be weaker, I think, for some of the missteps that we've seen along the way. Interestingly, we saw something similar with the Democrats last time, though, too, that the establishment candidate, Hillary Clinton, who was the presumed nominee, did not win in the end. And there was, you know, a challenge to that party leadership. We saw it on the Democrats last time, and now we're seeing it with the Republicans again.
Two things I'd add, Brett. The two issues at the heart of the president's press conference today, Iran and Israel and gasoline prices, are also two things which in many respects are out of the president's hands. And so we could be sitting here 6 months from now, if you have us back on our show, talking about the campaign. And if we'd had this conversation in February 2008, we would have talked about a campaign mostly on foreign policy. And then we had the financial crisis in September. So, you know, just a word of caution to folks who think the election is over at this point. Things can change a lot in a hurry in American politics.
Bill, Melinda, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We appreciate it. And perhaps we will get to talk to you again, because California could be more of a factor this year than sometimes they are in the past. We'll see how it goes. Thanks for your perspective.